The forest's secret, the torrential rain lashed through the ancient pines of the Cascade Mountains as Freya Novak pulled her forest ranger jacket tighter. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the woods in brief ghostly flashes. She should have returned to her cabin hours ago. But reports of unusual lights in this remote sector demanded investigation. Last sweep and I'm calling it, she muttered, pushing soaked auburn hair from her face. The thunder that followed seemed to agree with her decision. Then she heard it, a sound distinct from the storm's fury. A whimpering cry. High-pitched and unlike any woodland creature she'd encountered in her 15 years as a ranger, Freya followed the sound to a small clearing where rain hammered a smoking depression in the earth. The crying grew louder as she approached, her flashlight beam catching something huddled beneath a fern, something that glowed faintly blue. "Hello?" she called, her voice barely audible above the storm. The crying stopped. Two large eyes reflected her flashlight, iridescent pools of silver with vertical pupils. Not human eyes. Freya's training urged caution. That's something else. Perhaps the maternal instinct she'd never had chance to develop pulled her forward. The creature retreated further under the fern. "It's okay," she said softly, crouching down. "I won't hurt you." Lightning flashed again, and Freya gasped. Before her was a child, or something childlike. Its skin shimmered with a subtle blue luminescence, delicate patterns shifting across its surface. Small tendrils that resembled hair swayed gently despite the absence of wind. The face was almost human, yet beautifully alien. The creature child was shivering. Whether from fear or cold, Freya couldn't tell. It wore what appeared to be a torn garment of material she'd never seen before. "Are you lost?" she asked, knowing the question was probably futile. The child blinked those remarkable silver eyes and extended a six-fingered hand toward her. The gesture was so vulnerable, so trusting, that Freya's heart constricted. Another crack of lightning startled them both. The child scurried forward, wrapping slender arms around Freya's legs. She felt a curious warmth spread from the contact, a tingling sensation that wasn't unpleasant. "You're not from around here, are you?" she whispered, the reality of what she was experiencing slowly sinking in. This was no Earth child. This was something else. The decision came without conscious thought. Freya couldn't leave this child, alien or not, alone in a dangerous storm. Her cabin was remote enough. No one would know. "Come on," she said, carefully lifting the surprisingly light form. "Let's get you somewhere dry." The child made no resistance. Instead, curling against her chest with a soft sound that might have been relief. As Freya carried her strange discovery through the darkened forest, the rain began to ease. Above the trees, stars emerged from parting clouds. One seemed to move, tracking slowly across the sky before vanishing in her arms. The child looked up at the same spot, a soft keening sound escaping its throat. "It's okay," Freya murmured, not knowing if she was understood. "You're safe now." What she couldn't possibly know was how those simple words would change not only her life, but potentially the fate of two worlds. For the child she carried was no ordinary lost alien, and those who had lost her would not rest until she was found. Bonds beyond worlds dawn broke over Freya's cabin, sunlight streaming through windows to illuminate the strange child asleep on her couch. In daylight, the blue luminescence of her skin was subtler, but still present, pulsing gently with each breath. Freya hadn't slept. How could she? She'd spent the night alternating between watching the alien child and questioning her own sanity. Yet the reality before her couldn't be denied. "What am I supposed to do with you?" she whispered. As if sensing her thoughts, the child's eyes fluttered open, silver irises adjusting to the light. She sat up, head tilting curiously as she studied Freya. "Hungry?" Freya pantomimed eating. "Food." The child watched intently, then mimicked the gesture perfectly. "Progress in the kitchen." Freya prepared a variety of options, uncertain what might be suitable for an extraterrestrial digestive system. The child approached cautiously, examining each offering before selecting an apple. She sniffed it, then took a tentative bite. A smile bloomed across her face, a startlingly human expression on such an alien countenance. Tezra, the child suddenly said. Pointing to herself, Tezra Freya repeated, heart racing at this communication breakthrough. I'm Freya. Freya, Tezra echoed, the name musical in her strange accent. 50 miles away, Dominic Reed studied energy readings on his tablet. As lead investigator for the Bureau of Extraterrestrial Research and Defense, he'd tracked anomalies across the country. But last night's signature was uniquely powerful. It's definitely not natural, his assistant commented. Dominic nodded grimly. And concentrated in a 5-mile radius. Get me access to satellite imagery of the Cascade Range from last night. And back at the cabin. Freya watched Tezra explore her living room, stopping to examine photos on the mantelpiece. Family, Freya explained. Pointing to a picture of her parents, Tezra's expression fell. She made a sweeping gesture toward the sky, then held her hands apart before bringing them together. You're separated from your family? Freya guessed. Tears like liquid silver welled in Tezra's eyes. The sight awoke something protective in Freya, something she hadn't felt since before the accident that left her unable to have children of her own. We'll find them, she promised, surprising herself. But until then, you're safe here. That evening, as Tezra slept, Freya noticed lights sweeping through the forest, searchlights, methodical in their pattern. Someone was looking for something, or someone. She turned off her cabin lights and watched from the darkness as government vehicles navigated the Forest Service roads. Dominic Reed might not have known exactly what he was searching for, but decades of classified research told him it wasn't from Earth, and when he found it, protocols were clear: containment, experimentation, and absolute secrecy. Meanwhile, beyond Earth's atmosphere, a sleek vessel maintained geosynchronous orbit over the Pacific Northwest. Inside, Captain Jackson of the starship Celesta studied biosignature readings with increasing concern. The princess lives, he confirmed to his anxious crew, but she's not alone. Shadows approaching, 2 weeks passed in a blur of discovery and connection. Tezra's ability to absorb language was remarkable. She now spoke in simple sentences. More surprising to Freya was how quickly the alien child had claimed a piece of her heart. Star's home, Tezra explained one evening, pointing skyward from the porch swing they shared. Family there. Big ship. You came on a spaceship? Freya asked, still adjusting to the reality of their conversations. Tezra nodded, her tendril-like hair swaying. Bad storm. Escape pod damaged. She mimicked something falling, crashing, scared. Then Freya found. The simple narrative answered some questions while raising others. Was it an accident, or had Tezra been sent away deliberately? Were others looking for her? That question was answered at midnight when Freya's proximity alarms triggered. She'd installed them after noticing increased government activity in the area, fearing Dominic Reed's search was getting closer, ushering the child to their practiced hiding spot beneath the floorboards. But the figure that emerged from the forest wasn't wearing a government uniform. Tall and elegant, with the same luminescent skin as Tezra, though darker blue, he moved with predatory grace. Where Tezra's features were childlike, his were sharp, angular, crowned with longer tendrils that resembled braided hair adorned with metal beads. Before he reached the porch, Freya grabbed her rifle, stepping out to confront him. That's close enough, she called. The alien stopped, regarding her with silver eyes, identical to Tezra's. The child, he spoke in perfect English, his voice resonant. She is here. I don't know what you're talking about, Freya lied, rifle steady. Your weapon cannot harm me, he stated, not as a threat, but simple fact. I am Captain Jackson of the Nilarian Royal Fleet. The child you harbor is Princess Tezra, heir to the Nilarian throne, Princess. Freya's mind reeled. She landed during the storm, Jackson continued. We tracked her life signature here. I come alone, as emissary, not conqueror. Before Freya could respond, the cabin door creaked open. Tezra emerged, ignoring their hiding protocol, her eyes fixed on Jackson. Jackson, she breathed, recognition and relief in her voice. The captain knelt immediately, head bowed. My princess, we feared you lost. Tezra approached him slowly, then surprised both adults by looking back at Freya with uncertainty. Freya protected, she explained to Jackson. Freya, mother now. The word sent shock waves through Freya, mother. It was what she'd secretly begun to feel. Yet hearing it spoken aloud made it real and potentially heartbreaking. Given what Jackson's arrival meant, Jackson studied Freya with new interest. You cared for our princess as your own? I found a child alone and scared, Freya replied, lowering her rifle slightly. What else would I do? Something resembling respect flickered in Jackson's expression. Many of your kind would have reacted differently. Tezra moved between them, placing one hand on each. The message was clear. She wanted peace between them. Under starlight, two beings from different worlds faced a complicated truth. They both loved the same child. And decisions made tonight would alter all their destinies forever. Revelations and choices. The cabin that had once seemed spacious to Freya now felt impossibly small with Jackson's towering presence. They sat across from each other at her kitchen table, Tezra between them, the air heavy with unspoken questions. Why was she alone? Freya finally asked. How does a princess end up lost on a distant planet? Jackson's silver eyes darkened. Assassination attempt. Our queen foresaw the attack, but had moments to act. She placed Tezra in an escape pod programmed for an uninhabited sector of your planet. Your queen foresaw? Freya repeated. Nilarians possess limited precognition, Jackson explained. The royal line's abilities are strongest. Tezra will develop this gift as she matures. Freya glanced at the child who was contentedly drawing pictures of stars and two figures, one human, one Nilarian, holding hands. She must return, Jackson said softly. The succession cannot be broken. Without her, our civilization faces civil war. The words Freya dreaded. When dawn, my presence here risks detection by your authorities. They've been searching these woods for weeks. Dominic Reed. Freya had evaded his teams thus far, but each sweep brought them closer. I should prepare her things, she said, voice hollow. Jackson's hand, warm with a subtle electric current, touched hers briefly. You may accompany us to the extraction point, to say goodbye properly. The kindness in this gesture surprised her. Thank you. Later, as Tezra slept and dawn approached, Freya and Jackson stood on the porch beneath stars that held new meaning for her now. How did you learn our language so quickly? She asked. We've observed Earth for centuries, he replied. And I specialized in human studies at our academy? Human studies, she repeated, amused despite her sadness. I studied wildlife biology. Guess that makes us both scientists of a sort. Jackson's lips curved slightly, his first smile. Indeed. Their conversation flowed more easily than she'd expected, revealing a depth to him beyond the stern captain. He spoke of Nilarian culture, their harmonious existence with technology far beyond Earth's understanding. She described Earth's wild beauty, its complexity of life forms. When their hands brushed accidentally, neither pulled away immediately. The contact sent warmth spreading through Freya's arm, her heart beating faster. She loves you, Jackson said suddenly. In our culture, such bonds are sacred. To separate you would harm her spirit. Freya swallowed hard. What are you saying? His silver eyes held hers. There is another option. You could come with us. The proposal hung between them, impossible, yet tempting. Leave Earth. Everything I know? To stay with the child who calls you mother? He replied. And perhaps, to explore what lies beyond your world. Something unspoken passed between them, an attraction neither had anticipated but both now felt. In his alien features, Freya saw intelligence, honor, and unexpected gentleness. I need to think, she whispered. Dawn approached, decisions looming as large as the stars now fading from view. Whatever choice she made would change her life irrevocably, and she had mere hours to decide. Hearts across galaxies, the extraction point was a secluded mountain meadow bathed in early morning light. Freya stood with her backpack hastily filled with precious photos, her father's compass, and few practical items. The decision had come easier than expected when she'd looked into Tezra's hopeful silver eyes. Ready? Jackson asked gently, before she could answer. The unmistakable sound of helicopter rotors echoed through the valley. They found us, Freya warned. Recognizing the government aircraft pattern, Jackson activated a device on his wrist. Celesta. Immediate extraction. 3 to transport. The air shimmered around them as Dominic Reed's team burst from the tree line, weapons raised. Freya Novak, Reed's voice boomed through a megaphone. Step away from the extraterrestrials. You're interfering with a federal operation? Freya pulled Tezra closer, meeting Reed's shocked expression across the meadow. I'm exactly where I belong. Shimmer intensified, becoming a column of light surrounding them. Reed ran forward. But too late, the meadow, the helicopters, Earth itself dissolved around them, replaced by the sleek interior of an alien vessel. Welcome to the Celesta, Jackson said, steady hands supporting Freya as she adjusted to the transportation. The following days were a whirlwind of discovery. Freya learned the basics of Nilarian language while Tezra delighted in showing her new mother everything about her culture. The crew treated Freya with curious respect, particularly after witnessing her protective nature toward their princess. One evening cycle, Freya stood in the observation deck, watching Earth diminish to a blue marble against the vastness of space. Jackson joined her, his presence now a comfort rather than intimidation. Regrets? He asked. Freya shook her head. Strange as it sounds, this feels right. His hand found hers, their fingers intertwining, his 6 digits complementing her 5 in unexpected harmony. The electrical current between them had grown stronger with each passing day. Among my people, he said carefully, family units often form through shared purpose rather than biology. What you and I share with Tezra could be a family, Freya finished. Turning to face him, the kiss that followed transcended their biological differences, tender yet passionate, bridging worlds that had seemed impossibly distant weeks before. When they arrived at Nilaria, its crystalline cities and azure oceans took Freya's breath away. The queen welcomed her with gratitude and formal recognition as Tezris, adoptive mother, an unprecedented honor for a human. 6 months later, as she stood on the palace balcony watching twin moons rise over an alien horizon, Freya reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From lonely forest ranger to royal mother, from solitary cabin to shared quarters with Jackson, whose love had deepened beyond either's expectations. Tezra danced between them, happier than ever, while inside Freya grew the impossible, a child of both worlds. Made possible by Nilarian medical science and the love between 2 beings from distant stars. Home, Tezra declared. Taking both their hands, Freya smiled at Jackson, whose silver eyes reflected the same certainty she felt. Yes, she agreed. Home. Some journeys began with a cry in the forest. Others continued among the stars. Hers had only just begun.